Radio.
All right, everyone, welcome to Infiltrate Radio, and we're on episode number 40. Holy shit, Biz. My name is Patrick Joanne.
And I'm Biz Legends.
And on the show today, we've got a good friend of mine, probably, I'd say my best friend, my what do they call it? A bestie? Is that what it is?
BFFs.
BFF from all the way back in high school, and we'll talk about kind of how we ended up meeting each other. But Jonathan Chiotis, thanks for coming on the show, dude.
Thank you very much, dude. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So before we get started here and get into the nitty gritty, usually we talk about the drinks that we're drinking. So, John, I know you got something interesting that you brewed up there. What are you drinking?
Well, this is like a homemade. This is the Black Rifle Coffee Espresso. Just got a new espresso machine for my birthday.
Nice.
And I put a little caramel, salted caramel on top.
All right.
Little latte action.
What's the salted caramel? Like a syrup, or it's
a little syrup, yeah. Put it
Send
on
me-
top of the foam.
Yeah, shoot me a picture of that too, because we'll link to it in case anyone wants it. That actually sounds delicious.
I think I want it.
Yeah,
I
it's
looked
delicious.
up a little bit of the Black Rifle because they have like the highest caffeine. Is that what their thing is? It's like freedom. I think they called it freedom juice or something like that.
Freedom blend.
Freedom drink or something like that. But they have like super high caffeinated stuff. As I was like on Amazon looking for the link for that.
Well, you know what's cool about them? They have like a subscription, so you don't have to like go out and buy it. It just like comes to your house. You pick like you want it to come weekly, bi-weekly, bi-monthly, every 6 months, and then a bag just shows up. So you don't have to worry about it.
Huh.
No.
All right. I might have to do that. What, directly on their website or whatever you can sign up?
Yeah,
for?
you just sign up for an account, and you just
Where-
pick how you want it.
Do you know where they're out of? Are they in New York?
They're out of, I think, San Antonio and Utah. I think it's like a mixture.
How'd you hear about them? Or is it just like...
I don't know. I heard, I think, on a podcast. They're like veteran-owned. Yeah.
Weird how that just came full circle.
Interesting. Yeah, so hopefully maybe they'll come on ours and sponsor us too here, because we're always looking for sponsors. And Biz, what do you got? I know you. So Biz doesn't drink any alcohol.
I also didn't bring anything really interesting this time. I got some Dunkin', little iced coffee action. If we can see what that is, that's we do caramel and coconut with some cream, no sugar. You know what I'm saying? Enough sweeteners and all the other shit.
Who's Lindsay? Did you steal that from somebody?
Lindsay? Does it
No,
say
just kidding.
Lindsay on there? I was you had me look. That was good.
So maybe I can find like the the bottled versions of it, but I don't know if they'll do coconut and what did you say, caramel and coconut?
Yeah,
in there?
it's caramel swirl and coconut. Yo, Dunkin' is weird. So they have a cookie dough flavor that comes out like once every 2 or 3 years around the springtime. And it's amazing. I'm going to be honest with you. They have a Chips Ahoy one that's pretty amazing too. And they will not sell you the vat or the container.
Like the syrup of it?
Yeah, they won't do it. I've like talked to managers. I've like contacted like corporate and shit like that. They like won't fucking do it.
It's like a secret syrup that they...
I did have an unnamed manager that was like, I'll definitely sell it to you. But then when push came to shove and I showed up with like $50 cash to buy like 2-3 of them from him, he was like, I can't do it, man.
Huh? They like saw him on the camera and like,
I don't know.
Like, I swear to God, if we see you, we're coming after you.
So Duncan,
He was kidnapped earlier that day.
What's
I
the name
roughed
of
up a little bit.
it reminds me of the coconut and the caramel. What are those? The Girl Scout cookies?
I was saying I can't take full credit.
Samoas?
They had the Girl Scout cookie flavors recently, within the last like 6 months, and they had a caramel swirl or a coconut caramel one, and I really liked it, so I started having them blend it myself because the other seasonal flavors were pretty awful. Not big on the butter pecan and the pumpkin spice.
Yeah. The pumpkin spice thing. I can't get into it. I don't know. I
To
like
me,
pumpkin pie, but
it tastes a little like chemically. Whenever they try to imitate pumpkin flavor, to me it always tastes very like chemical like.
I agree with that. All right, I got to go to Dunkin' Donuts more often too. I'm always at freaking Starbucks like a bougie asshole.
Freaking day, man. Every day I go to Dunkin'. Spend like $15. I spend probably like $200 a month or more.
I used to do that before the gym. I'd go to Starbucks and freaking get an espresso and like an iced tea every single day. I would be doing it
Before
and
working
then
out.
yeah, so like an espresso, because like you can do those pre-workouts, but they make you all jittery and crazy. I used to do the what was the name of it?
But coffee doesn't.
C4. No, because it's got all this other shit in it. So like I'd be
Really?
fine during the day. You know, I'd work out. It would get me like pumped to do it. But then at night, I would feel like I was having heart palpitations. Like the caffeine, just regular caffeine doesn't do that to me though. Like if I just have espresso or coffee or whatever, but something else that's in there would make me feel like I'm getting like tightness in my chest at night, and like I would think I was dying. And I'm like, I'm having a fucking heart attack.
It's that tannerin and stuff they have in it. They got all that extra shit.
Yeah, there's all these like weird chemicals they throw in it. So I stopped that, and then I was doing that. But then when COVID hit, like Starbucks was closed, so I had to kind of figure out how to do my own thing, and I started making iced tea at home and drinking.
Yeah,
red...
Starbucks took a minute to come back after.
Did they close?
Yeah, for a while. Like
Really?
Only for a short while, because I have a cousin that works at Starbucks, and she was like getting paid full wages plus like hazard pay for the longest time, and then she had to go back to work, and she actually complained about it. Me and her brother were like,
during
are
it.
you kidding me? Yeah, like they opened, I want to say probably like 6 weeks after everything closed, like mid-April or May, I think is when Starbucks reopened again. They took a while to open, but they weren't like one of the late ones to open at all. They were in fact one of the earlier ones to open.
Yeah,
I
that
have,
hurt.
I have no respect for anybody that closed down.
that hurt me. The not having espresso. Like I had to change my whole friggin' routine up for that.
So hang on,
when
let
this
me
stuff
ask then.
happened.
Do you think that that's not about to happen again? I feel like it's lit. I don't want it to, but I feel like it's on the verge of happening.
We'll get into that, but let me talk about what I'm drinking here, just so we can get that out of the way too.
Oh, you're right. Sorry.
Yeah. So
Forgot.
I've got. I know on the last show I said to everyone that I was going to not have any alcoholic stuff until Thanksgiving, but that lasted about a week. And being in the house, homeschooling kids and the like, I ended up having a whiskey the other day. So I'm like, all right, I'll just keep it nice and light up until Thanksgiving and watch my diet and whatever. So today I've got a little bit of this New Amsterdam vodka, and with a play on like vodka and orange juice, I went old fashioned classic. I went Orangina, man. So for those that don't know,
shake? Did you shake
I
it?
did. You got to lightly shake it, Biz. You're a young kid here, so John and I. Yeah, John and
I know what a light shake is. Thank you very much.
Back in the day, well, it's carbonated, so some people think, oh, you can't, you don't give it a shake because it'll explode on you. But Orangina, it actually says it right on the bottle. You know, give it a little light shake right there on the bottom, lightly shake. But this was huge back in the '80s. Orange.
Is that in a glass bottle?
This one isn't, but they have them, and the link that I'm going to post was to the glass bottles. For some reason, the picture when I bought these on Amazon, it looked like it was in a glass bottle, but it didn't actually come in that. So I found one that is the original glass bottles, because those are classy as fuck. But it's friggin' delicious. It's like super light orange and then carbonated. I don't know. For those people in the '80s, it's nostalgic. And the reason I bought it, there's that comedian Sebastian Maniscalco.
No.
Italian guy, funny guy. Watch his specials.
Got nothing.
But he does a whole bit on how, when he invites a girl over to his house, he's got everything in his fridge. It's like a spa, like a he's got Pepsi and sparkling water, and he's like, yeah, and I've even got Orangina. Nobody has Orangina. So it was kind of like a challenge to me that I should also have Orangina in my refrigerator. So
it's the Zima of
right
of orange drinks.
John and I know about Zimas from back in the day. We used to drink those.
You know about Zima, Biz?
No, I don't even think I've ever heard of it.
Wow. You never heard of Zima?
Wow.
I don't think so.
I don't think I can link to Zima for those that don't, but I think it made a comeback recently too. Right?
I've never had Mr. Pibb either, honestly. Like, I've heard about it a lot, but I never had it.
I'm not too familiar with Mr. Pibb either.
I got to get some sarsaparilla as well.
Yeah, we talked about root beer, right? Wasn't
Hmm.
root beer? That's sarsaparilla, isn't it?
That's one of the earlier drinks. Sarsaparilla is a different tree. Remember
Oh yeah, that's right.
it's the root beer is like a birch root, and sarsaparilla is like some other one. And
Isn't
then
it
Yeah.
obviously,
poisonous in high amounts? That's why they stopped using it.
probably. I mean,
Yeah.
I would guess. I mean,
It's like
it
liver
sounds
failure
likely.
or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, you gotta
Anything that
yeah.
hurts the liver, I'll go for it. So I might have
Well,
to start.
yours is probably calcified, so nothing probably passes through there anymore.
So one other thing that came to mind when you said that, like that Biz wouldn't know about what is the drink you just said,
Zima.
Zima, egg creams. You know what an egg
Mm.
cream is, Biz?
Are you
Yep.
serious? Obviously not. Like, what the
Have
fuck
you
is
ever had an
You
egg
don't
that?
know
cream?
what an egg cream is?
Dude,
Wow.
so
Guys.
so
I
That's
John,
was I
not a,
was
that's not an old person thing.
so
That's a
check this
city
out.
thing.
Check this out. I was born in a very unique time where I can consider myself an 80s baby or a 90s baby because I was born in April of 89.
Okay.
so yeah, it's not necessarily like an age thing. It's more of like a New York City thing because it's
Oh,
in
okay,
every
okay.
single diner in New York City. Like
What is it
you order an
called?
egg cream. It's called an egg cream. There's no egg in it.
But what is it? I mean, like,
It's basically like you take like soda water, like club soda, and you mix like a syrup in it. So it could be like vanilla or chocolate syrup. Sometimes like a little bit of milk is added
No,
to
it's
it.
like milk too. Plenty of milk
Yeah.
too. Yeah. It's like a half and
Um,
half.
it's weird. It sounds really weird, but it's like a light carbonated chocolate milk almost.
Yeah, there's a place up by me that actually knows what it is.
a
Yeah.
carbonated chocolate. Is that like what's that? Yoo-hoo?
Oh, yoo-hoo.
Is that
Yeah,
like that?
you don't see a lot of yoo-hoo around anymore either.
I do up here. That it's really big in
Yeah.
Canada, and you can find it in like Walmart and shit up here.
All right. Well, enough about these stupid drinks. But so now we're gonna have to link to like 500 drinks in the
That's
thing because we're
great.
talking.
That's great. Buy some
Um,
drinks.
but yeah,
Stock
so
your fridge.
Starbucks didn't close, but so for those that are listening too, because we got listeners from all over. John's actually in New York City, and we're in upstate New York. But John and I both grew up in Queens, which is how I met him initially. But so Starbucks and stuff didn't close during COVID. I mean, you worked during the whole thing, right?
I didn't. Yeah, I don't, nothing's changed in my life. I didn't notice really what was going on, but yeah, I don't know. I worked the whole time.
Yeah. John and I we grew up in New York City, and I know John, you're still there. I moved out a few years back, and I know you're sort of still there. You're working in the city, but then you're kind of commuting a little bit outside of it. But I mean, there's been a lot of changes since we were 18 years old, let's say, like
Yeah.
in the vibe of the city and kind of what's going on there. And I heard a few stories recently too about this like mass exodus that started happening when COVID happened, where people were kind of locked in their houses, stuff's closing down, and all of a sudden people are like, "Yeah, I'm out," and just hundreds of thousands of people moving out in the last kind of year. I mean, have you noticed a change? I mean, obviously when everything was locked down, it got quiet there in New York City, but um, I guess what was that like? What was the whole experience for you then?
I mean, I honestly don't know if it's like because I was younger, but like it felt like New York was dirty and dangerous when I was younger, but it felt like there was like some kind of like magic and like anything could happen, like bad or good. You can meet like new friends and connect with people. And now it just feels like it's just dirty and like getting dangerous. Like
Hmm.
that's really like the bottom line. It doesn't feel like there's any magic. Like nobody's like trying to hang out with each other or connect with each other.
Hmm.
It's a different vibe.
Is stuff still closed right now? I know restaurants like I've got you and I have friends that own some places down in the city too, and I know that's probably tough because there's not a lot of outdoor seating that they could have done in the beginning. Is stuff like opening up now, or is it shutting down? Like what's the vibe in the city right now?
It's like a weird mix. I don't know. Like if you have space, they're basically taking the parking spots and putting places to sit outside, but it's like 3 or 4 seats or tables, and then
Hmm.
that's it. So I don't know how they're going to survive on that. But It's just weird, dude. It's like third world country kind of.
Yeah. I mean, what were the street? Because you were obviously out and about during all of it. Like, what was it like to walk around New York City with no one out on the streets? I mean,
Dude,
was it just?
I've been planning for this my whole life. I fucking loved it, to be honest with you. I remember one night, it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. I went down to Manhattan to go check something out for emergency. And I was standing in the middle of the street. I was like, this is awesome. Nobody was out. Had the whole city to myself pretty much. And it was just a crazy vibe. Like I felt like I was in that I Am Legend,
Right.
but
Yeah,
I liked it.
a bunch of people when it first happened, they were like, well, everyone needs to go watch Infinity War and then Endgame and then go drive around like it really just happened.
Yeah, the big snap.
Yeah.
What's the picture behind you? Is there a story behind that painting? I mean,
It's really not a picture. Not a story. We bought that in Australia, and the guy Brucey. I was looking to see how much the painting might be worth, and then I found out the guy just went to jail for murdering somebody. So I was like,
So yeah,
maybe this thing will be worth some money now.
what a story behind the picture.
what's
Yeah.
what's the artist's name?
His name's Rusi La. He's out. He's out of prison now. It was like a self-defense kind of thing, but there is no self-defense in Australia. So somebody attacked him. He hit him, and the guy hit the ground and died. But there's no self-defense in Australia, so you go to jail no matter what happens, really.
So you just bought that? Where did you end up seeing it? Was it just in a gallery somewhere, or is like
Yeah,
while
well,
you were?
In Alice Springs. That's where he's from. We were like flying through there, and we saw it. It's the only painting that me and my wife could agree on that we should get.
Right.
So we got both. We got three of his pieces.
Huh. Oh, you got 3 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, shit. What did you do? You like mailed them back while you were over there, or did you travel with them on your back the whole time?
No, we were still traveling, so we just paid them half the money, and then they said, whenever you get back, just send us the rest of the money. We'll send you the painting. So they sent it to our house,
Oh,
and then we had to pay somebody to frame it up and stretch it out. Actually, I think I stretched this one out because I know how to stretch out.
So it just came as like just the canvas, and then you had to
It came rolled up.
frame it yourself. Oh, it's interesting, dude. It looks almost like Picasso-esque. Like it reminds me very much of like, because I was out in LA a while ago. The lady at the gallery still bothers me. She still sends me like emails and text messages all the time because I went in there with my daughter and we were looking, and they had a whole bunch of Picasso prints, like the Alice in Wonderland sketches that he did, and they weren't that bad. I mean, they were like, they're expensive. They're like $1,500, but to own I'm sorry, not Picasso, Dali. Salvador Dali, like to actually own one for like $1,500. I was like, because I was actually interested. It was like hey, maybe I could just throw this on a credit card and come home with a Salvador Dali painting.
The thing I like about this, it's like the painting. It's not a print or anything.
Yep.
And it's like very Total Recall-ish. You got the
Right.
3 boobied flying lady, but the guy's like he's a Aboriginal, so it's all like Aboriginal folklore mixed with Bob Marley lyrics.
Yeah, is that what that is in the?
So yeah, it's pretty. Yeah, he's a cool dude. I got to meet him. I hung out with him for a while. He came to see us.
Huh. Yeah. So that was your honeymoon, right?
That was.
So let's do this. Let's start at the beginning. Actually, Biz is chomping at the bit here. He's got a book there in front of him.
Where are these bits that everybody chomps at?
Yeah, I literally took a bite of finger skin right before you said it, and you made me
did you? So Biz is holding up a book here, St. Anthony's Fire, that John and I co-wrote a while back. How long ago was that? That was 15 years ago, maybe?
He's lurking behind a book that we wrote 15 years ago.
15 years ago?
It's even signed.
Oh yeah, that's right. I did sign it for you.
So precious.
But a collection of poems and poetry and just writings, prose and shit that we had slapped together at some point.
Copyright 2007. So yeah, 15, almost 15 years ago.
That's unfucking real. About that right now.
Yeah, and that's actually, so just to pimp out our own stuff too, where that's available on Amazon, and I think it's on Apple Books, iBooks, or whatever it is. So I think you can download it. Don't quote me on that though. I think it is. But
I
yeah,
have no idea where it is at all.
No.
My book's a little more exclusive,
Yep.
unfortunately. It's
You
not
might
on
as
Apple
well.
and other stuff. It's on Kindle and
There you go.
everything, you know.
You might as well pimp that too, Biz. So
That's
Murder
Murder
Inc.
Inc., huh? Wow.
Murder Inc.
Yeah, a little thick one, you know what I'm saying?
Yours is more like it's an actual story, right? It's not.
Yeah, mine's like a fiction crime novel, you could call it, I guess.
Yeah, John
So
and
like
I.
Maltese Falcon ish.
The things that it's most been compared to is what's that thing by Stieg Larsson? Millennium. Not the girl who kicked the hornet's nest. It's
Oh, the
it's
rape
the first
rape
one.
movies.
The first one.
The girl with the dragon tattoo.
Bam, that's the one. Good shit. Good shit.
That was the most uncomfortable movie I ever seen. I was watching it with my mother-in-law and my wife, and like she's getting like raped, and it's like, so what do you think about this movie?
No surprise. So there's absolutely no sexual activity whatsoever in my book, but there are some ridiculously brutal murders for the sake of like what's happening in the environment they live in, and to push the narrative of the story and everything. So I'm not surprised that it's been compared to such a thing.
That's awesome. I like graphic shit. So
Yeah, well, check it out. It's on Amazon Kindle. I think I have exclusive stuff with them right now still, and it's never made its way to like Apple Books or anything like that. But
So Apple, you can just you got to do it in a very specific format, and then you just upload it to it. It's not anything like crazy. I think they have to approve it or whatever that it's in the right.
Well, no, when I did my thing with like KDP, it's called. They said that like for X amount of years, I wasn't allowed to like release it to any other digital platform or whatever. At that time is probably past, and I should probably look into that. But
Yeah, but that's kind of how John and I ended up. Kind of not the book itself, but that was after years and years of like doing creative endeavors together, just random stuff. Lots of which was unorganized and not.
I know you got a black cat crossing your path there. So watch out.
I was giving her a little pet there. You saw that?
Yeah, John. So let's say this. I have my memory of kind of how we met. How do you remember us becoming friends or meeting initially? I don't know if I've ever asked you that.
I think it was there was like a lunch table. I think I sat at an empty lunch table, or you were at that lunch table, and yeah, that's all I remember. It was a lunch table, and then Mike came and Dave came, and then that became our lunch table, and then we beat up some big guy who came up to the table or something. I don't know. It's like all kind of a blur, but
yeah, that's kind of. Is that a second black cat, Biz? That's going up there. What
dude,
is
there's
going?
What? I don't even see a cat the second
that's
time.
like
So you
a
guys are
matrix.
freaking me out.
Isn't that like the Matrix thing? Like he sees the black cat twice.
Yeah, what the heck?
The
Guys,
glitch.
there's literally no cat right now.
There was a second cat there.
I have
I
two
saw it.
cats. One is gray and one is black. So like it is feasible that something like this is going on. But
But I remember the same exact thing. So one of us, I don't remember who, was sitting at a lunch table in our Catholic high school.
All boys, Catholic.
Yeah,
high
all
school.
boys. Which, of course,
one
like
of them.
a year after we graduated from there, it became I was gonna say bisexual. It became co-ed, of course. But yeah, we were sitting. One of us was sitting at a table, or maybe it was our friend Mike Russo.
Just think about the mess that would have been though, because they only allowed freshman girls in. So that, I think that would have been too.
Oh yeah, that's
much.
true.
Too much. Too soon. Too much.
Yeah, too soon. But like, I remember us sitting at the table at some point, and I think that was one of the first times, because we were all sitting there and we're all kind of degenerates. Like just, I don't know. We weren't necessarily, but I wouldn't even say that we were like the nerds or the losers. We were kind of like this, like the creatives in school, I guess you can say. Like, I don't know how to even explain that. Like I
We
remember
we
just
just wanted to willfully not be like bothered by anybody. Like it was just
yeah,
like we didn't care about
like
anything.
just didn't give a shit about anything. And then some guy, like this big one of the fellow students,
Jock,
big guy, was like
25 years old.
yeah, I think he was a narc. He was like a drug enforcement officer that came over to the table to like he slammed on the table or something, and we ended up like
Knocking his hands out,
yeah,
like
like
grabbed his head and slammed it into the table. I don't know.
he came over all aggressive. We just like beat the shit out of him, and I don't think we ever had a problem with anyone really in the
It
school.
was complete. Like he actually didn't deserve. Like looking at like trying to remember, he didn't deserve it at all. We just like went really hard.
Right.
Like,
Just out of nowhere.
and he was literally
reflex.
like, "What are you guys doing? Why are you doing this to me? I just came over to say hi."
Well, that reminds me of who. I think I told the story, Biz, to someone about training to do something, and then just a natural reflex happens that causes you to act in a certain way. Like growing up in New York City, and in the areas that we did, I think you have a certain like you get accustomed to certain responses to things. Like you end up just reacting.
Oh, for sure.
And then we like our group of people, like you, my brother, Mike, and even Steve Massetti, like we trained each other even further by like whenever we would meet up somewhere, whoever got there first would hide and then attack the next people that got there, right? And it would continue until everyone was there. And so you got used to like not expecting being attacked from somewhere and then reacting to it, because we would actually physically like be rough, or we'd use water guns. And my older brother was walking up to the train to the subway station one day to come meet us, and he's walking up the 74th Street towards Roosevelt Avenue, for those that live in the city, to like the F train or the N train. I forget what he was going to, but he was supposed to meet us somewhere. And as he's walking up, someone comes behind him and puts their arm like around his neck from behind, and he just instinctually, from us doing this all the time, right, grabs his arm and flips him like over him, thinking it was one of us. So he had no fear about anything that was happening. It was just a response, like, this is just what happens when I'm going to meet up with these idiots. And it ended up being some gang member guy and another person, right? So there was two guys that were there, but the guy that was behind him still, that didn't get flipped, was like, holy shit, what just happened? And ended up running, and the guy that he flipped obviously got up and started running, because he was like, holy shit, what is this guy, like a ninja or whatever? And so we ended up like training each other, doing these things to like train each other for life in the city.
Yeah. It was pretty rough. We had some rough, I mean, hour long fights.
Yeah.
We used to put Primus, I think. Like we used to put Primus on and just like beat the shit out of each other for like hours.
So I have brought up this story, John, of going to which I know has happened a few times, but there was one time in particular where I think we had just come from school, and I was going to your house. We had gone into your house when you still lived with your mom in Ravenswood, and we had come out of the house, and we both had backpacks on, and we started walking. We were going up towards, like, again, for those that know New York City, Steinway Street or wherever we were going, or towards the train. And all of a sudden, a Monte Carlo, or whatever that car is. I forget what the name of that car that the undercover cops used to drive.
A Taurus.
Yeah, it was something like that. Drove up onto the sidewalk, and three undercover cops jump out in like regular dress clothes, and like just fists out, super aggressive. Do you remember that, John? And they started like rifling through our book bags, like no warrant, no like what are you doing around? They were very aggressive about it. And John happened to have his wallet, and fortunately you had your ID at the time, which is crazy because neither of us had driver's licenses, but you had some sort of ID with your
I had my street cred card.
Right. Your address on it, because they didn't believe that he
Yeah.
lived there. They were assuming that we were there to do something nefarious or buy drugs or whatever. It's like, no, I live here. And then I just remember the look on the police officer's face, because they were super adamant that we were doing something bad, and that we were only there for buying drugs or doing something like that. When the cop that had your wallet told the other cops, because they were like really getting at us or whatever, and they were like, I'm doing the stop doing that motion to my neck, to the other cops, saying, no, he actually does live here, with your ID. It's a whole different way of life, John, and that's when I'm
It
wondering.
used to happen to me like multiple times.
Yeah,
in
and
my life.
you lived there. I mean, your whole life. So obviously that happened. And when we started hanging out too, I mean, and I started coming over to your house more often, like that would happen a few times, where we would just get followed by undercover cops all the time.
Yeah.
Does that happen now, John, to you?
To me, no. No, it's not. I mean, not to say that we weren't up to something.
No, John, not me. I was a church going boy.
More often than not, if they would have checked hard enough.
That is true. That is true.
I remember once I was going to the 2 buildings up from my building to go drop off a N64 video game. And I leave my house. It's like nighttime. I go in the other building. I go up the elevator, and there's like somebody left like a box in the elevator. I'm like, who the hell would leave a box like in the elevator in the project? It's going to get stolen. So I get up to the 6th floor, and I leave the elevator, and I see these 2 guys standing in the stairwell, and I'm like, yo guys, I don't know if you just moved here today, but you better get your shit and like out of the elevator. It's going to get stolen. And they're like, what are you talking about? Turns out they're cops. So I didn't realize this, because one guy looked like the Edge from U2, and so he goes to grab me and throw me up against the hallway wall, but
Right.
I don't want to hit my face, so I like back up and I smash him in the mouth with the back of my head. So he's like, "You motherfucker!" Like all this shit. We're fucking cops. I'm like, "Get off of me! Show me you're a cop, whatever." And so finally, they calmed down. They put me in handcuffs. They go, "Where are you going?" I go, "I'm going to my friend's house right here to drop off this video game." But my friend was black, so he hears this going on outside. So he
locks his door.
Yeah, so like, they knock on his door, and they can hear like moving and everything. So his mom answers, and he's behind the door, and they're like, "You know this guy? He said he's coming to drop this video game off." And they look at me, they're like, "I don't fucking know him at all." Like they were like, he's like, "Fuck that guy. I don't know I don't know anybody." They're like, "That's it." They take me up to the roof. They like rough me up. They throw my wallet off the roof, and then like they just leave me. They're like, they didn't have anything on me, so.
Right.
But that was like a constant. It was not constant, but it happened.
Yeah, one of the things I remember a lot, and maybe it's a little different now, but back then in the '90s, I remember getting stopped by the cops a lot, and they wouldn't there wasn't any protocol. There was no like it was very much like hit first.
That was so when Giuliani took over the city. That's when it was getting like that, because that was like J Day, and he was trying to clean up the Times Square. So that was part of that. Like they changed their procedures, and they would say, we just, even if they caught you with something and you got arrested, you'd end up like getting off with a fine, but they got that material off the street. So that was kind of there.
Which was, I mean, there was a bit of a cleaning up that happened. Like I equate like New York City sometimes, especially like Times Square now, is almost like a giant mall, where back in the day it was definitely like you didn't want to be there after a certain time of night,
I remember watching the Peep Show, waiting for you one day.
Did you?
It's like
Wow.
the I
Wow.
still have the coin too. It was
Do
the I
you?
forgot what it's called.
Oh,
Peak World or something.
like you had to get special
Yeah, you
like
had to get a special coin. It was
tokens
like
or
a
whatever.
dollar per coin, and like you put it in, the thing goes up, and then it goes down quick again.
Oh
You gotta
yeah,
sit there, keep putting the coins in to get
yeah,
this
yeah,
trashy chick up. She's
Oh
smoking a
man,
cigarette.
what's
What do you want?
what's funny is too. There's a certain nostalgia to that, but you wouldn't. I don't think you'd want to go back to the way that it was. Although, who knows where New York City's heading now? I mean, people are saying that it's heading in a way that's not ideal. But maybe it brings on another artistic renaissance or something there. Um, with the
I mean, everybody's like New York City's dead, and nobody's given up. Like, they just built $1 million high rises there. I don't think it's going down as fast as you think, and I think this COVID thing is probably going to disappear.
yeah, yeah,
Like, it'd be like a forgotten dream, like everything else. And this is
yeah.
just going to be an opportunity for people to buy up cheaper real estate, because
That's
that's
true.
probably what's going to happen. The real estate, like, same thing that Bloomberg did. He bought. Remember, like, there used to be like these little tiny lots next to every house, and you couldn't buy them because you couldn't build anything on them, or you could buy them but you couldn't build anything.
Yeah, and like
So there was always like these little empty lots between, like, houses. So what Bloomberg did is he bought up all those things and he became mayor, and then he just changed the ordinance. So you have these like real narrow. This is
yeah,
Somebody's going to make money off this, and New York is not going to collapse because of it.
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, this
I
is
100%
this
agree.
this is not like the worst thing in the world.
Yeah,
People are running, but it's people with money, so they can keep an apartment in the city and keep a house in Westchester.
yeah.
So I don't think I think it's blown out of proportion a little bit.
So if we could shift a little bit here. So we both have a couple of kids. You do too, Biz kids. We all have kids here, but you have an
His
interesting.
kids.
You have an interesting story about. Was it your middle kid, where you
Oh,
had
my
to?
daughter. Oh yeah.
Yeah, was it a storm? There was a storm happening, right?
Who, me?
Yeah, snowstorm. Well, you're
No.
you're you're a storm in and of yourself, John.
Yeah.
But there was a storm happening, and you weren't able to get where you needed to go for the delivery. Is that
No, that must
accurate?
have been your. That must have been how we remember this story of how we beat the big guy up when we were
You start making
in high
making stuff
school.
up.
Really, we were just sitting there getting picked on. No,
So
me and my wife had all of our kids. We try to have natural birth
hmm,
because we're not, hospitals and shit. Like, if you don't really have to deal with it, we figure like birth is pretty much a natural thing.
did you have to be natural during it?
I'm always natural.
So you didn't get the epidural on you? You
No,
didn't ask for it. I would have, John.
got
I
to
would
man
have,
up, dude. Got to take the pain.
So
No,
one of
so she just went into labor, and we planned to have a home birth
right.
at the house, but my wife has really fast labor, so I had to deliver my daughter in the bathroom of my house,
Yeah,
which
which
was
is
like the craziest, because my mother kept telling me stories. She's like, I already had a son. This is my middle. My mom
yeah.
always said you had the cord wrapped around your neck when you were a baby, and you almost died. Like, we both almost died.
Hmm.
So my daughter's coming out, and then I could see the cord,
Uh,
wrapped around her neck, and I was like, oh my god, like, this is not good. Like,
hmm,
this is what my mom was talking about. I was like, I hope she doesn't die in the bathroom. It's like,
yeah.
it was a traumatic. But I've been through so much stuff, though. It wasn't like the worst thing in the world, but it was just, like, where you turn on, like, you're just like, okay, we got to do this now. Like, there's no time for
Yeah. Do you
feeling
think?
anything.
Yeah. Do you think that that's a benefit of growing up in like in New York City? So I feel like I've been exposed to so much that very little is like surprising to me because
I'll
of the
be honest with
experiences.
you. I have, like, so I know some people, like, in the military who are like kind of messed up and stuff. I have very, like, common symptoms of what somebody with post-traumatic stress has.
Right.
Because always like that reason, like we would be attacking each other, but there would also be people who weren't my friend
Right,
attacking
who would
us,
also,
like, who would come out of nowhere, or, guns. And I see people like get hit by cars and like pieces of them fly apart. And,
yeah.
you know, there's like bodies in the street, like some people throwing away like aborted babies in the garbage cans around my house. Like, like it was just like crazy stuff. And you do like, and now I realize as I'm a father and I see how like innocent kids kind of are, and you're like, wow, I don't have that, like
Right.
that positive outlook. And even when I'm outside, like with my kids, with a bunch of other kids, and they're all laughing, like I'm always like looking to see what,
Yeah, always on.
like, is somebody doing something? Like, what's that guy doing? Like, I'm always like trying to position myself. Like, I can't sit my back to the door. I can't like, and
That's funny.
like now I realize how messed up I am.
So it's funny that you say that too, because now with my even Allie, now my girlfriend, she when we go into a restaurant, she's like, "Where do you want to sit?" Because she knows I want to sit in a position that I can like have the biggest field of view to everything that's going on, so I could be like monitoring, even if it's just me and her and we're in the middle of the suburbs somewhere. I want to have like full view of everything that's going on. It's now that you mention it, now I know that I've got to go to a psychologist, John, so thanks, I appreciate it.
I don't know. I feel like that comes down to being like an observer. You know what I mean? Like you want to sit there and you want to be able to have the biggest field of view, so that you can be like, oh my God, look at this guy. Oh, but now look at this guy. This dude right behind you is looking crazy. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, and I also get like pissed like when there's guys who have like kids. I'm like, that fucking person is not paying attention. Like, why am I the only person paying
Right.
attention to like this crazy guy who's obviously having like an episode of some sort? Like, why is nobody else like paying attention to him?
Right.
Like, am I on my own to deal with this guy? Like, I'm about to do something. Like, it's gonna look like bad.
That
Right.
is something that's interesting too, because I think that's a certain personality type. There is a personality type that will ignore the elephant in the room, so to speak, right? Something will be happening, like for instance on a city bus or in a restaurant, right? Someone's choking in a restaurant. I, I found myself in situations like that, like without thinking, I seem to just get up and do it. And I think you're very similar to that from the experiences I've had with you, John, like where you just react to those things. But I think there is a certain personality type that says it has nothing to do with me. I'm going to keep my eyes averted from the situation and not even address it, and then hopefully it'll go away.
Yeah, it's like going under the blankets, like when you think there's something in your house. Like, I don't know, like that's what people just, as long as I can't see it, it can't like hurt me. And
Right.
adults actually believe that, I think.
Right. So one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, because you have made the conscious choice to not be on any social media kind of right from the start. So Facebook, no Instagram, none of that stuff, right? No Twitter or anything like that.
I was on Facebook when I was like single for like a couple of weeks, but it was destroying it was destroying things. So I just like, no.
You're like, screw it. So what's good about that, man, is that you don't have a lot of data into those things. Have you seen The Social Dilemma? Any chance that movie?
No, I've been hearing things about it though. So
Have you seen
might
that,
check it
Biz,
out.
at all?
I started watching it, but it was pretty fucking redundant for things that I already knew, like working
Yeah.
at Verizon and just kind of being in the loop of how technology works and all of that stuff. Like, not to derail too hard, but I thought it was pretty funny that back when Mark Zuckerberg had been like interrogated or whatever, it was so hard for them to understand and for him to explain that when your computer goes to a website and then you go to Facebook then checks in with your computer to see all of the websites it's been to. Therefore, Facebook's not tracking your data, but they are technically tracking your data. Like that was like next to impossible for them to explain. And it took me less than 30 seconds to get that out. So
Right. But I don't think it's the explaining. I think it's the people on the other end trying to understand it, or maybe it was kind of a show thing too.
I'm
It
sure.
could
I'm
have been
sure.
a trial of like, hey, let's put this person up there just so we can say we're investigating it and really we're not doing anything about it.
I think that's what they do. I think they get you up there, so it's like we're taking care of this. We got this. We're asking the tough questions.
Yeah.
You don't understand, and then everybody's like, "Okay, the government's got this. I could go back to doing
All
sticking my
right.
head up my ass."
Yeah.
And then you think it was taken care of, but nothing was solved or taken
Yeah.
care of at all. Just got
So
Right,
worse.
right.
what do you think about the election, John? What do you think? What do you think went on
Um,
here? Do you think we had
I
widespread
cert
election fraud, or do you
I
think that?
cert I do I'm like a constitutionalist, so I don't trust like any sort of politician. I really don't care what letter they put in front of their name.
Sure.
But I would not be surprised if there was some type of shenanigans going on because it
Yeah.
seems to me I can't believe the shit that I seen this year, and I don't know if it's because I'm older now and I just started paying attention more to like what's actually going on because it affects my taxes and stuff,
Right.
which I never cared about. But like, I wouldn't be surprised if there was some kind of shenanigans going on. Like, it's possible.
So, Biz, how can I ask your opinion on like what do you think about
Where's the
and just from
Orangina,
a,
dude? What's going on here? You
yeah,
lied to us.
I'm adding a little seltzer. You know how many calories are in this friggin' thing? There's like 170. I
Are
gotta
you
look
serious? What
I gotta
episode are we on?
I gotta look
40?
I gotta look pretty for our
Not for
viewers.
nothing. I think I'm not going to judge you guys, but you should have had 40 ounces for your 40th episode. I'm just
Oh,
saying.
that would have been good too.
Some old 40 ounces.
I remember back in the day when a pack of cigarettes and a 40 were $5, and
You
could
just
get
needed $5 to get through the
you had
day.
perfect evening.
That
Wait,
was the
how
number.
old are you-
You
how old are
needed
you,
five,
Patrick?
and I needed five.
How old are you, Patrick?
Yeah, I'm 40 this year, and so I see now you're bringing it up, Viz. Now I'm not bringing it up.
I was waiting for you to bring it up since that was the episode number.
I know.
So.
I knew that you were patiently waiting for me to mention my age again. But yeah, so here's the thing. I think if we take a sober look at what goes on in the country, there is always a certain level of shenanigans that happen, no matter what the election is, right? I think that what's going on is that that Trump takes these little things that are everyone knows kind of are there a little bit, and then blows them into like, okay, there's obviously some instances that have happened in almost every election for the last at least 50 years where something, someone's tried to cheat a little bit here or there, right? And he takes those things and turns it into those little things are why I didn't win, right? He uses them as like an excuse as to why he didn't win. When that's more than likely not the case. The majority of the votes and the electoral votes were for Biden. This is my personal, my personal take on it. But it is truthful that there was probably some stuff that occurred in certain areas to whatever extent, even if it's super small amount. That is worth, I think, looking into over the long run, right? We should try and minimize that. But I also think that he is a very sore loser. And I think he's going to do whatever dirty tricks. He's like, in a fight, he's that guy that has no concerns about biting you or punching you below the belt. You know what I'm saying? Like as long as he wins, he doesn't give a shit how he does it. So any little thing that he can utilize to try and win, or at least look like he got cheated out of a win, I think he'll do. So I think that if we're all willing to concede a little of like, well, it is true to a certain extent, but I don't think that it's something that really tips the election to Trump being the winner of that. I don't know.
I would have never believed at all like that there'd be like that much, like you'd be able to cover something up that much, like you would get that many votes.
Right.
But it's just so weird how like the whole entire time that Trump was in office, like the shit that they just kept coming up with and creating, and like Russiagate, and some girl peed on him, and like it was just this like constant, and then like nothing, like all just. But you know what the real question is? Nobody says what happened to all that taxpayer money that we used to investigate stuff
Yeah.
that never became anything. And like no, like that's what the real questions are. Nobody questions like anything about our sovereignty, anything about where this money that they do all these investigations, where's the money for the elections, like all of this stuff that's like disappearing, that
Mm.
like before our eyes, and they just want to know who won. Like, was it this guy or that guy? It's like it just fucking drives me nuts.
And, and,
Yeah.
and one other thing that I would say too, because you kind of mentioned something about COVID and how in New York City, I think again, like growing up there, you see like there are individuals that take advantage of every single opportunity. If there's an opportunity there, no matter how shisty it is to do it, someone will take advantage of the fact and use it to their benefit. And you see that a lot in New York City, where I mean, any chance people get, you will get taken advantage of if you're not on your P's and Q's and you're not watching what's happening and you're not aware of what's going on around you.
I feel like the same thing with this mask shit, like too, like people wearing
well,
masks.
well, here's
It's like a power play. Like
but
people who don't care at all about wearing a mask, they'll be like, "You're not wearing a mask. You better." It's like you're just doing. You don't even believe it. You just want it to like power over me. So you told me to do something.
right. So there's two sides of that too. So there's I think that there are individuals that it is in their best interest to make things as scary as possible because then at the end they can benefit from that. And I think on the other side there is also a benefit to making it not right. So like for instance, Trump found he's the kind of person that can find those things that are like those dirty tricks to win, right? He can say, he can point to the mask thing and do things like this is to control you and use it to his advantage to get people on his side, because there are a lot of people that don't like big government, that don't like government controlling what they do, etc. And he knows that that can rile them up into an emotional state that will cause them to say, yeah, you're right. And once someone is emotional, they're no longer rational. And I think on both sides of it, it's in our best interest to be as rational as possible about what's going on. And I think that, with regards to how information is disseminated now, your choice to be off social media, I think, is a benefit. And I think even you, Biz, you've taken a step back from Facebook and the like, right?
Yeah, I mean, I still am on Instagram and I still have Instagram's like app, but I don't have like the Twitter app anymore. I deleted that and like deactivated Facebook and got rid of the app. So
Yeah, and I think what's been happening lately is that traditional media sources like the news, on television, even the newspapers, etc., are competing with things like Facebook and Twitter for your attention. Because you're not going to go out and buy a newspaper or tune into CNN, let's say, if you can get more exciting news, let's say, or something that'll reiterate your own view on a situation via social media. And
well,
I think,
that's why I had mentioned before that the social dilemma was a little redundant. You know what I mean? Like it was so, I guess you could say like common sense seeming to me that, you know what I mean, when you give a company all your information, I mean, you're agreeing to the terms and conditions without even reading to them 99% of the time. So, I mean, the fact that people are so shocked that these companies are going to and willing to sell their information or give their information away or use their information to create better ad traffic or better whatever it may be to give the algorithm the power that it does to give you the specific air quotes content that it gives you on your timeline that they explain in the social dilemma. All of that seemed like basic level knowledge you should have if you're getting a social media account. You know what I mean? You should know what you're getting into before you really get into something like that.
Yeah.
I
Well,
love
what's
I love how people are like, they're, oh, somebody just created this awesome thing for me and spent millions of dollars so I can use it and talk to my grandmother with no cost whatsoever to me.
Right,
that's
right.
Like,
that's when
it's
it.
like you have to realize that
Yeah.
it costs something to make it, and they're going to benefit off of your ignorance.
Well,
But
that's
like, to be surprised is ridiculous.
one of the main themes in the documentary too is he's like, you know, if you're not paying for a product, then you are the product. Right?
Yeah,
They're
exactly.
Right,
basically
right, right.
they're selling you whatever that may be, and that may be your information. But what he kind of goes into that's interesting is that not necessarily your information, but your attention is what is the actual product, right? Your eyeballs there on that screen is what is vying for attention,
I see that with my
or
kids, right?
what's
Like,
worth money. Yeah,
But I
the
mean,
attention for the children, like, they're competing constantly for attention, and then you add that, and that's something competing for attention, and it's like this strange subconscious thing that happens
and
with attention.
I think being an avid user of social media for so many years, like working at Verizon made me want to kind of know how all of this stuff works so that if I got a call about it, rather than being a dick and being like, oh, well, we don't really support it, you know, I'm going to need you to get off my line. I could actually be like, oh, this is how you do it real quick. We don't normally support this, just so you know. So if you get a survey, make sure you give me great markings, you know. but that mindset, I guess you could say, made it so that I wanted to use Instagram more. And Instagram was one of the first ones that the more you like a certain topic or a certain hashtag, the more that shit floods your discover page. You know what I mean? So that Instagram was a prime example of what they show on the social dilemma, where, you know what I mean, you respond to a message from your friends. Well, now you're getting notifications that those friends post when you don't even give a shit about those friends. Like, you know what I
right.
mean? It's all in kind of how you're being tracked, and they pay attention to everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that's what leads to kind of the state why we're so divided right now. We're getting put into these loops, these like information loops, where people are getting further and further out into their own like
We're
bubbles
forced into
of
our own
idea.
echo
Yeah,
chambers, as you always
it's
like
like
to
a
say.
yeah, it's like a distillation, right? It's like a speaking of distillation, right? It's a a distillation of you know whatever that idea, and it's also the most extreme because it's got to be entertaining to keep you there, right? To keep your eyeballs on it. So it's not the best version of that idea. It's the thing that's going to keep your attention the most version
Right,
of that idea, right? Which is
right.
terrible. And I think traditional media and news and stuff is having to compete with that, and so it ends up being terrible too. And I'm kind of concerned about the future because, you know, you say, Biz, you know, I think actually our generation and before has grown up somewhat with it. I mean, half my life probably has been exposed to like the internet and that sort of thing. But my kids and you know people younger even than you, Biz, are have grown up their entire lives with that information all being there and that kind of algorithmic delivery happening. And I find them almost being better at dealing with it. Like you say, it's common knowledge to you. You'd be surprised though how much that maybe isn't the case, right?
Well, yeah, no, of course, and I think that unfortunately, I think it's more not the case than is, because like there's so many people like I know a lot of kids my daughter's age that are allowed to have like TikTok and Instagram and shit like that, but it's short lived. You know what I mean? They have it for like a couple months. The parent kind of is like, oh, I didn't really realize you were going to get into this, and then they shut it down.
Hmm.
So like the kids get exposure to it, they get an idea. But do you think like I mean I'm thinking back that I used Instagram heavily back in like between 2012 2014. So I was like in my mid 20s working for a technology company, paying attention to this, and that's why it was on the forefront of my mind when I went through it. So
Hmm.
do I think a 10-year-old pay attention to that? Not at all. The 10-year-old was completely getting taken advantage of, because you're not really supposed to be on social media when you're like less than 13 anyway. So everything that they're liking and everything that they're doing and everything that every person they're interacting with is getting used against them to keep them sucked in and using the device more and more. You know what I mean? Because this isn't the Social Dilemma, documentary that came out. I think it shed a lot of awareness that the average person doesn't know this. The average person is surprised by this, but the average person lets their kids spend all their day on the internet and don't really give a flying shit what it is they're doing.
Yeah, I can't. My kids don't. My kids haven't even watched movies. Well, my son watched a movie. He's like watched 3 movies in his life.
Yeah.
I don't let my kids like watch TV just because I don't know how to handle
Yeah.
like because I have guys that work for me and they're looking at the Instagram and it's just like women and I'm like,
and
how
and
could
that's
you how
and
could you
that's
do that all
and
day?
that's what I'm saying. That's happening because what they're either searching for or interacting with
Oh yeah,
a lot of those sorts of pages. So that's what their sponsored content, air quotes again, and their like their algorithms feed them more. I follow a bunch of like film and acting pages, and sometimes it's like, Jesus, like I've seen all this stuff from the same 7 pages posting it
mm,
over and over again. It gets old. So I would imagine that if you're, looking up,
yeah,
models, or
yeah.
the same thing would happen, that all the stuff just keeps getting refiltered over and over again. And I
Ninety
mean, I
nine, 99% of my Instagram feed is free the nipple posts. Biz. That's all it is. Just hashtag free the nipple.
I could only imagine it probably would be with you, Patrick.
Yeah, you know what amazes me because I like to build stuff with my hands and I like to like actually make things like
Yeah.
woodworking, just like whatever creative stuff. If I know how to make it, like I know in my mind how to make it. If I'm trying to make something new and I look at YouTube, like, oh, how do I make this? So I look up YouTube. For some reason, that information does not go into my head and I know how to make it now. It's like this weird thing where like it's like testosterone, right? If you take outside testosterone into your body stops making it. If
Right.
something is saving the information for you, your brain's not going to take it because something outside of your body is saving it for you.
I
And it's
think
such like a weird thing like to feel and like it's very odd. It bugs me out.
I think it might be a little bit different too, because like Patrick was saying, I assume that you guys are similar in age, that you're closer to being born in 80 than you were in 90. Um,
I was born in the 70s.
Bam, there you go. So closer to my mom's age. Anyway, so the point that I was going to make is that it's like kind of like a generational thing, I feel like,
Talk
too,
about full
because
loop what he said earlier.
yeah, my mom was born in 74, so
Oh, okay.
but oh, you guys made me lose it. I'm lost here. Um
You're saying your mom's?
oh yeah, definitely she was the topic. She was the topic for sure.
So it's a generational thing, is what you're
Oh
saying.
yeah, yeah.
About the,
So yeah, no, I think it is more of a generational thing because um no. What was he saying before about, prior to me mentioning it was a generational thing?
yeah, so
Oh,
like
like the memory, like
Oh,
remembering
oh, oh, oh.
functions.
Yeah. Remembering, weird. No, but the knowledge being on YouTube, for instance, anytime I've ever looked up anything on YouTube and then followed the steps and did it, has been knowledge that it's like riding a bicycle, again, air quotes, because it's something that I could not do. Like, I learned how to tie a bow tie from watching one YouTube video one time. I watched it, paused it halfway through, watched the rest of it, knew how to tie a bow tie, have taught hundreds of people now, realistically, probably about at least 100 people how to tie a bow tie now. You know what I mean? Just from this one video. And there's been a couple things I've learned off, like, my car and different shit like that, off of YouTube. And I feel like because YouTube has been kind of like the Wikipedia visually for my generation, that although it's not really a trusted source, I sure learn an awful lot from it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's one of those sorts of things that, like, you can't cite this. Oh, well, I watched this YouTube video, that's how I know about the Revolutionary War. A professor would laugh in your face, despite how factual that information may be. You know what I mean? So I feel like
Yeah.
it might
They're
be
just
more
trying
of
to
a,
protect. I think
yeah.
a lot of people are just trying to protect their own interests, though.
Oh,
Like,
I'm sure. I'm
yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
But that's what I was saying, is that it may tie into, you look at it as, oh, well, this technology will be here if I need it again. Whereas me, I want that knowledge. So I go to a source like YouTube and I look to get it, just like if I opened a textbook or something. You know what I mean? you look at it more as like, this entertainment source, wow, it provided me a shortcut. I'll remember to look that up again when I need it.
Hmm.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I will say this, John. So, like, in regards to that, I get what you're saying about all right, so you're offloading, like, memory or some sort of computing power from your brain to either a device or a computer, right? And you'll lose that, sort of like back in the day, you used to remember people's phone numbers. Like, I still remember
Yep.
my childhood phone number, right?
Mhm.
But how much of that information is necessary to keep in there, and how much of it is actually a good thing to offload so that it frees up processing power to do other things, right? And the way I think of it, and I've kind of come to embrace technology, and there are parts that are not healthy, like what social media does, and that sort of thing. I've started to distance myself, except from when it's a promotional thing, or because there are obviously eyeballs there that I want. I'm a creative person, and the way that you I feel that I've reached a level of success is by having a certain amount of eyeballs or ears, either listening to the creative endeavors that I do, or watch what I do. And so I think of them more as tools. And I think that it it's a matter of being able to look at it from a high level, and decide I'm going to use it as a tool versus having it be the thing that controls me. Because there are people that will sit there and they'll just scroll through social media. I go on, I kind of post my stuff, I engage a little bit to get engagement, and then I have to get off because I'm like, I don't want to be. That isn't what I want to be doing. What an entertaining time for me is me creating stuff and making things, which is something I wanted to get into too and talk about,
But
because
that's unfortunately not how social media works. You know what I mean? You're using it not how it's meant to be used, and that's why, you know what I mean, it ends up being the way that it is too. Social media is made to be your everything. You know what I mean? It's made to be your way to keep tabs on people without keeping tabs on people. You know what I mean? So it's because you use it so minimally, that's why you have like not so much engagement. That's why it's not like a fun time. And I'm not speaking this from my point of view. This is like what
yep.
what a social media expert would say about people that post minimally like me and you, and people that have very self influenced like notions, I guess you could say, in social media. Like I spend most of my time on social media on my own profile, looking at my own profile. That's why I feel like
Right.
I don't get a lot of engagement and stuff, like, you know what I mean? Like I feel like it creates more of a narcissistic mindset for you yourself to be more self-absorbed, and it doesn't create like a very good self-image of yourself, or you don't have like more self-respect of yourself. In fact, it seems like it does the exact opposite, because you're sitting there diminishing your self-worth, being like, well, why didn't I get more likes?
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like, it's toxic, y'all.
Yeah, I don't know. I think part of the reason I never really took to it is because I don't really like attention. Like I was
Yeah,
never like I don't know. I never liked attention, like when people
right.
gave me it. So it's like, why would I do this? But I also will spy on somebody and be like, oh, how the fuck what are they doing? Like occasionally, like I'll
Yeah.
go on somebody else's thing and I'll look up somebody and be like, oh,
Well,
this happened with
I
her.
think
So
I think that social media plays to a lot of people's insecurities in many different ways. Like I personally, I'd like to be remembered by people, and I like to remember people. So adding you on Facebook for you to be one of the 5,000 slots that they allow, just so that I can remember, like, oh yeah, dude, I met Jonathan through that podcast with Patrick that one time 8 years ago. That's completely not relevant, and I would never reach out to him now. Like, I'm still friends with him though. You know, just
Yeah,
to
yeah.
keep an idea on who I've met and where I've been.
It's like your
You know what I mean?
collection of souls.
Right, right. And I know that not everyone's like me. And I know that other people, they're on social media because, well, they want to keep tabs on their family members that are a little crazy, or they want to keep tabs on their family members they love, or someone in my high school is definitely going to get pregnant. I gotta know who that is in 5 years. Whatever it may be. A lot of people, I feel like it plays to their insecurities about well, I need to see what everyone else is doing to make sure that I'm doing it right.
Well, one of the things that's interesting to me too is the difference in I guess it might be generational, where like I've always been creative. I've always gone out, played music, done like John's known me since high school. Like I like to play music. I did plays in high school. Like I don't know if it's just attention seeking or whatever the hell it is, but my form of entertainment was never sitting down watching a football game or watching even going to concerts. I didn't do a lot of. I wanted to make music or write or paint or draw or act or whatever it was that was creating stuff. And I think that my personality is there. That's where I gain the most joy. And I think what's happening now is that creation process is being tied pretty directly to social media response to it. So if you make art or you make music, how much social media response do you get to that? And the same problems that occur with you getting into this bubble occur with that, because in order to get the engagement, you need to play the algorithm game. You need to you
Right.
need to whereas in the past, like punk rock was very fuck pop music, fuck this, we're gonna do whatever the hell we want, and it was this freedom that people saw in music, which I can relate to very much. Um, Now it seems as though the musicians that are coming out of this generation where social media was always the case, there's no rebellion to it. It's what will fit within that to get the most people saying, American Idol style, that was a beautiful, that was so amazing. And while there's talent there, right? Like, is there art there? Is it meaningful? Is it just plastic? You know, I don't know. Is it a
Yeah, it's like everybody's like, oh, going against the grain, fighting the man, fighting the corporation. It's like everything you stand for, Nike stands for. Like all these things that you think like that you're so fighting against the system or fighting against somebody, like there's a corporate backer, like Amazon believes what you believe. Like that's not going against the man. That's not standing up for something that's like super individual or anything. Yeah,
yeah?
it
And
is. It's like an
It's
algorithm.
like getting a license plate that says anti-government.
Sovereign citizen.
right, yeah, and I wonder if that's you know, I just wonder if maybe we're the old kooks that are just looking at the younger generation, or maybe there really is a problem there.
I
But
think they fear being like
But
ostracized.
I
Like
think
that's a powerful thing that we don't use nowadays, is like letting people not be a part of, like shunning people. Like
but
people don't, that's the worst thing they're afraid
well,
of.
speaking of like ostracizing too, it seems like especially like in the entertainment world, and I guess Patrick can answer this about being a musician, but like when I wrote my book, right? I wasn't an avid enough reader to be a writer, and
Hmm.
now that I work in film, like I literally like film being on a film set is nothing like sitting around watching a movie. You know what I mean? So like to me, when people like I get so much shit for not watching movies. You know what I mean? I don't really consume much TV or movies because it's you know, like, so I'm a little bit curious how many of these social media people with millions of followers, how much of them spend in their downtime consuming any of the other channels, any of the other people, you know what I mean? Like they spend a portion of their time engaging their followers because that's technically how they make money as a person with millions of followers, and they're an influencer or whatever. But you know what I mean? Like in their downtime, they're not spending their time on Instagram if that's where they're making their money. You know what I mean? They treat it like a separate entity and they don't blend the two whatsoever. You know what I mean? And I feel like a lot of people, because not many people know very successful people, a lot of people will give you shit as like, oh, you're a musician, but you never go to other concerts. You don't consume any other music other than your own. Like, it's not that I don't, it's that
no,
it,
so
it's a
that's
separate. thing. You know what I mean?
That's kind of not what I'm saying. So I do consume a lot of music. All I do is listen to friggin' music all the time, like other people's music, and
Right.
yes, I do listen to my own too, because I'm definitely not, the musician that I want to be. I want to hear like people that just blow me away musically, right?
Of course.
But
Yeah.
there's also a skill to it, right? There's like music and art has something else to it. Like social media has what do people react to that will get them to hit like or comment, right? Music, there is fantastic music that no one has heard of that is still amazing music that I would listen to.
Right.
If I'm the only one listening to it, I would be like, this is fucking phenomenal. I don't know if that's the same for social media influencers, right? So they can put a post, okay, you're half naked, or okay, this is some beautiful sunset or whatever. I don't know if that's if it delivers the same impact that art does. So, for instance, behind John, right, is this artist that maybe not many people know about, but maybe 30 years from now, people look at that art and see the pain or the whatever that's in there, and it delivers some emotional response of the human experience that is valuable.
Let's hope so, man.
I mean,
My retirement package.
well,
But I don't
consider it-
I don't know if necessarily like a social media post of some influencer standing by a fancy car has the same value.
No, definitely not. And I would even say that because of the lack of value in, for instance, the social media influencers, they end up diminishing the value of like the art behind John because technically, if you post a picture of the like if you took a picture and posted it to Instagram of that art, it might get 30 to 50 likes, maybe 100 to 200 people would see it versus how many people are going to see it in his house. You know what I mean? Like more people seeing it doesn't really make a shit's worth of difference. You know what I mean? It's people think that being seen and being on social media is inflating their life or their self-worth at all. You know what I mean? That's what I've seen about people that are on social media and that post on it. They're like, well, people have to see it. You mean like those 30 people that don't give a shit about you, but that click like, you know what I mean? Share that meaningful shit with the 4 people that actually care rather than the 30 people that don't give a shit.
And and I'm not I'm not saying that I don't go to concerts because I do go to shows that I would like to see, like where I'm like that I want to see that performance done live. I
Right.
do that, but it's seldom. I'm not like a fan, if that makes sense. Like I couldn't be like a Deadhead or a you know what I'm
Whatever
saying?
other
Like
groups. Yeah, you couldn't be
yeah,
a
like just
believer. Come on. You're a
I
believer all the way.
well
I
that
feel I feel like if you're taking the time to make something, you don't have to, like your attention is on creating something and making something. It's not
Right.
like
Not
I'm gonna
consuming.
not consuming like it, and then like so if this guy's making the painting behind me, he might be listening to music that inspires him, like the Bob Marley song or whatever. But he like there's a difference between like people who act and there's a difference between people who like watch.
yeah.
Most people just like watch things, like they watch the world go by, they watch their life go by. They're just witnesses to things.
So
But
what
See,
why
and
why do
I think
we why do you choose Biz, right? Or and John? So why do you choose? Because I question this about myself too. Is it a selfish thing, like where I just want to see myself, let's say, playing music, or want to hear myself, or see my own painting, or in that time of creation, is that so much? Is that the drug? Like what's the drug in that? Is it
well
is it the
to me they are completely different things. You know what I mean? Like if I'm sitting there watching something, usually I'm watching it from a critical point of view. You know what I mean? And that might be different for me because like unfortunately, I'm a little bit obsessive when it comes to like film and stuff like that, as I've told you specifically, Patrick. Like
Yeah.
when I listen to music, it revolves around scenes that I could make around that music in my head. When I watch actors that I like, I'm critiquing or, you know, studying how they're acting. When I watch TV with my wife, I'm looking at, wow, that shot wasn't really that great. Oh, these edits aren't that good. That blend was good. Like, you know what I mean? Like different things. Like I watch it with such a critical lens that it's not as enjoyable as entertainment should be. It's not entertaining me. I'm doing it for research, I feel like. You know what I mean? So it's a little different. So I feel like because I consume entertainment and media the way that I do, it equates to being not really a form of relaxation to me. You know what I mean?
Hmm. That's kind of how like going to a concert sometimes can be for me. Like
Right.
watching someone live, like listening, just listening to someone, I can enjoy musically. Like if I'm just by myself, I'm just listening to a piece of music. Like I can really get into that. When I go to a show, I tend to have the same eye where I'm like, okay, what are they doing on stage? What things can I take away from that I can implement? Maybe what are they doing that's better than what I'm doing? What you know, or what are they doing that I do better, and maybe I should do more of that. But like, what leads you to continue to do that? Because it's not. I don't think any of us here on this podcast right now, right? Like uh, make things for making money necessarily, right? You do it for another reason. I'm just wondering what that reason is, because I question it myself. Is it a selfish reason? Like underlying,
I
are we
I
very
think unfortunately
narcissistic in
I
ourselves, or are we enjoying the process of making it so much that because I feel like I have to do it. If I don't do it, I feel like I'm getting sick. If I don't do it, it's like a need, you know?
I mean, mine's a little different. I feel like I've had a lot of jobs in my time. I started working when I was like 14. I'm like 31 now. So like I've had a fair share of jobs. I typically work jobs for at least a year, if not more, before leaving them. So like I feel like with film and with like acting and stuff like that, it's one of the only things that I actually find enjoyment to the point that it doesn't really feel like work. And being that I'm in my 30s and I probably be working until I'm 70, you know what I mean? I want to find enjoyment in what I do. So because this line of work is kind of the only line of work I've ever really enjoyed to the degree that they say you should, it gives me, unfortunately, a stronger drive to want to do it, and a willingness to kind of be a little bit out of character to do it. You know what I mean? To cut corners or to um, try to get ahead in a way to be able to do this, so that it's not like, oh well, I got to go back and do a traditional job, or I have to save for retirement, or I have to do any of those things that take away from, I guess you could say, the lifestyle that I'm more comfortable living in. um so I think that it, in turn, like you were saying, is it a selfishness? I think that the root cause is more that it's kind of a passion of mine, and it's a way that, because I'm talented with it, I can make money doing it. But in turn, it makes me be, like I said, a little bit more uncharacteristic. You know what I mean? Like when I'm really busy on film sets and stuff like that, like I swear to God, I forget to eat sometimes. Like, you know what I mean? My wife calls me and she's like, "Hey dude, you've been gone like 10 hours. Like, do you want to say goodnight to the kids?" And I'm like, "Goodnight to the kids? Like, what time is it?" Like, you know what I mean? It's something that I get so distracted with that it's very similar to like how addicts describe like using certain drugs and stuff like that. But it's silly because it's like it's an event that you're doing. It's not a substance you're abusing. It's like when you have a passion to entertain, or a passion to create. I forget what said it. There's a trailer I watched recently about how creativity and madness, they go hand in hand. You know what I mean? That like the more creative you get, typically the more insane you seem to the average person, because of kind of how that balance works in the mind.
What do you think, John? Why do you do what you do?
I mean, I honestly feel like most of my life I've been trying to like kill my inspiration as much as possible because it drives me fucking insane. And
Right.
like it really does make me like sleepless. Like once I get a thought or something, I won't be able to sleep. I won't be able to function. I won't be able to. And I never thought like I was talented enough to earn money doing what I did. So I always felt I had to make a decision. Do I want to actually starve and just like do this, or do I want to not starve? Like I don't want to be like my family. I don't want to grow up in that shit. And I felt like if I pursued like art and just going in that direction, that would I would end up like even worse than that. So I always try to kill it, but when it comes, it like comes in like these waves, and I'm like pretty much like a lazy I'm not like I'm lazy, but I like just like to feel life. Like it's like a weird thing. Like I just like, oh, I'm just feeling the moment of life. But then like when I get an inspiration, it's like, fuck, now I have to fucking sit down. I have to fucking write this. Like what the fuck? And
That's
like
really
and then
that's
I
really
can't
my problem
rest.
too.
So it's very I don't know, I have like a love and hate relationship with it. And it like it when it comes on like a faucet. I'm trying to like redirect it towards more physical things than like ethereal writing, book, stuff like that, like where it's actually like a physical object that could just keep going back to and working on it a little bit at a time,
Like
and
what?
hopefully not
What
obsessing.
what kind of things?
Like just like whatever, like something like woodwork or something,
Hmm.
like building something more of like a physical function. Like I'm trying to get my son, and we're trying to do like models, but like electronics and like moving things, something like that. But just something, I don't know why, like the physicality is different than like a mental, like a writing
Yeah, because
exercise.
I think what I think both of you have said too is like when creativity um, isn't uh, isn't curbed by responsibility, then it becomes insanity, right? Because that's what the great artists that everyone's like, holy shit, are people that have almost destroyed their lives, or actually have destroyed their lives to give everything to the creative process, right?
I mean, in the case of
They've
most writers and
they've
visual
surrendered to it.
painters, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? And most of them have succumbed to some sort of alcohol or drug induced poisoning because they feel like they can't be creative without it, or that if they lose the edge to themselves, then they won't be creative. You know what I mean? Like, so a lot of people, especially I would say in music and in art, end up kind of killing themselves over the sake of art. You know what I mean?
You read I talked to you about the Moon and Sixpence, right? Like it's a fictional story, but it actually scares me because it's literally about like a guy who's like literally like, oh, all right, my kids are 7 years old. Fuck it, they're fine on their own. I'm out, and like literally like just I don't know if you call it snaps or just accepts like I can't fight this anymore, and like he just literally like abandons everything and goes to some like island in the Pacific or something like that, and just abandons everything. Never ever heard from again from his family or anything. And like when you think about that, it's like it's a powerful fucking thing. Like you gotta, do you really want that? But does it really matter? And like, what is
Yeah.
creation? Like, does it matter if it's a human? Does it matter if it's a piece of work? It's all creation. So what's the difference?
Well, that's so
Right.
Buddhism, right? Like Buddha, that's what he did. He was married and he had children and he walked away from all of that. That's the
Really,
story.
really, I never heard about that.
I heard his wife was a real bitch, though.
Yeah,
Like, I don't know.
real,
Yeah, she was a real
real,
bitch.
Really, really, I've never heard any of
real,
this stuff.
real nag.
If you think he was fat.
No, but I think that like there is something to that notion, right? Like to sacrifice everything if you want. Even the CEO, right? Like you create a company, that has to be your main priority. You need to give up everything in order to make that particular thing succeed. And I think creativity is a tough one to do because for the most part, you don't make money right out of the gate with that, right? So you're giving up comfort and companionship and all that for just creativity, not money. And so I think it's a tough one to do, and a lot of times it's irresponsible to do it. You know, if you have people that depend on you and you're somewhat of a rock within your circle, it's irresponsible for you to say, I'm just going to give up on everyone around me and just do this creative thing.
I think that's the leap of faith, though. That like,
Yeah.
I think that's what makes, like, if you do it as a hobby and you're a hobbyist, and then like, but if you're somebody who literally will like die in the street to like make it happen, I do feel like it's a 10% chance that you'll, because even now, like I look at people like doing this, like you, Pat, you've been doing the same, like some type of creative stuff. I like have like manic like spout like it'll be like for 6 months I'll like write like a bunch of things and do a bunch of music, and then I'm literally like, yeah, I can't take this anymore. Like I like my life will start to fall apart. Like
Right.
I don't know, I don't have the mental space to do both. I can't juggle like that. So it's like I got to choose one or the other. Like I'm already like on the edge most of the time. So it's a very like
Yeah, to be
But
honest,
I
John,
think
I don't think I
I,
handle it very well.
no, I think that you
But
do. I think that to his
yeah,
point,
you do, yeah.
that's why you have longevity, is because it's about balance. You obviously have a fair way or a decent way of balancing your creative and your need to survive. You know what I mean? Tactics in line, because I think that there have been times that I've realized, like, if I were doing this and didn't have the support that I did, like, my family would starve to death. Like, you know what I mean? Because sometimes obviously are better than other times. And when you work freelance, it's more hit or miss. You know what I mean? Sometimes you have so many jobs that you like are working 70-hour weeks and you feel like you're going to pass out. And then you go 7 months without, you know what I mean, so much as a 1 or 2 day gig that isn't really paying your bills. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Yeah, I feel
Well,
like it's fucking it's insane. Like when you think like what could happen to like your family because of your like selfish decisions or whatever.
yeah, like
But
I go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, but Pat like is he's like a consistent like individual. Like it's so like I actually like admire that like about you. It's like, oh, you know, even though it seems like there wasn't like an immediate success or like it's just like consistent, like just staying in the mix of things that you
hmm,
seem to like been doing. Like you just kind of like, and now I find myself like saying like, dude, you do need to create, you do need to do something, but I'm trying to create like parameters. Like it has to be something that it will only take 2 hours a week. So like,
yeah.
what can I do that's creative that takes 2 hours a week, that takes this much of my time, but like I'll still do it. So it doesn't become this manic
Yeah.
like explosion.
Yeah. I don't think by any means I've got a handle on my creative addiction. Let's call it. um, but I appreciate that, and I think that like I've come to realize that I definitely need that. As part of my life, I need to be creating whatever it is, music or even this sort of thing where we're all just talking and we're creating some sort of content, whether someone listens to it or not. I think this was productive in terms of like a conversation around it, and it helps me figure out what I'm thinking and that I'm not crazy because
It,
you fuckers do the same thing.
yeah, no,
Uh,
it
you're
does
thinking the
help
same
though.
way.
It helps be a creative outlet for me. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that you and I have made even the slightest bit to call this, lucrative in the slightest bit for either one of us. But you know what I mean? There's enjoyment in meeting new people and having conversations with strangers, and again, it being a one and done thing that never really ends up happening again. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, sometimes we have repeat guests, but not really all that much. Like,
Yeah, and one of the things that's interesting about this is I like to have different guests on here because like John, like we've known each other forever, right? And we've just made art and music and random. We've slept in Central Park in the snow, tried to make an igloo to sleep there, right? If you remember that.
Which is what like all the kids are doing
Yeah,
nowadays. They like want to be
oh, are they?
homeless.
They want to be
Oh,
it's
homeless.
like,
dude, yeah.
hey, this new
It's
TikTok
like, yeah.
challenge is where we build an igloo in Central Park and try not to die.
But like we've also had like Rachel Barnhart on here, who's like a council member. like business owners, and there's that same personality type like penetrates those things that are making changes. So like what differentiates, the Basquiat's that are making art that's wonderful and fucking makes a ton of money, but he died early and just lost himself in the creativity. And then what causes people to take that creativity and direct it in a way that's I guess more socially acceptable, like, and maybe there's a middle ground there that some people can take away from, or at least from me talking to people. I get a lot from like, oh, this is what you're doing, this is what I'm doing, it's very similar, and oh, these are the little tricks and tips that you do to keep your life in order while you're pursuing these things. But yeah, I think we've rambled enough here on this. There's
Nonsense. One more topic just before we go. It's a
Sure.
two-parter. It's a
All
two-parter. I need to know this right here, right?
Sure.
What do you call this, both of you?
I call it Reese's.
A peanut butter cup.
I'm talking the title. What would you call it? This particular brand.
Reese's.
I guess it's a Reese's. I don't know.
Okay, so I saw something recently where someone pointed out that most people call it Reese's rather than Reese's.
Yeah, they do.
Right?
People say Reese's.
And people make the argument that like, oh well, it's supposed to rhyme with Reese's Pieces. What is a Pieces?
Is that really the argument, Biz?
Yeah, I've heard an argument to that effect, and the person literally said like it is meant to rhyme with pieces. That's why it's Reese's. It's like plus it belongs to him. It's Reese.
Yeah, Reese.
Reese's.
Sure.
It's
Reese's
belonging
Pieces.
to him. Exactly. Thank you.
But
So Reese's Pieces came first before that?
No,
That's
that's
Reese's.
the other part of the argument that seems so idiotic is that yes, that is not factual. That the Buttercups obviously became first. Like
Reese's turned his butter by himself and made that
he's like
buttercup.
we knocked off M&Ms before we decided to be a reputable brand that could knock off M&Ms. Like
Reese's Pieces are the shit, though. That's like the good.
you like them? I was
I
never
literally hate them. I can't stand them.
not a
so
big
good.
peanut butter and chocolate. I mean, I like it. I'll eat.
They
I'll eat the shit out of it.
infused them into peanut butter cups now too, and it's like you ruined a perfectly good snack by adding another perfectly good snack to it.
Yeah,
Like
it's too much.
All right. Quick tangent though. Have you guys tried the caramel M&Ms?
oh, of course.
They're like
Yeah,
Reese's
huh?
Pieces can go to hell. as
I
far
mean,
as I'm concerned.
peanut butter M&Ms are better than Reese's.
Are they?
Reese's, sorry.
Did you just fuck up, Biz?
I did. But no, I personally
called
think
out
that
your
the
own.
peanut butter. Yeah, peanut butter M&Ms are better.
John,
Yeah.
hopefully I can make it down to the city soon. I appreciate you coming on the fucking show.
Yeah, dude. Thanks for
I don't hear any kids yelling anymore. They're all in bed.
No, I just stuck them in the closet. They make too much noise.
All right, perfect. We can all sing them a good night melody. Good night, sleep. But I really do appreciate it, and we'll have to have you on again. Maybe we'll get a contentious guest. We'll have you like spar off with some guest, just a random. You could just take the opposite.
Well, I would love to take I'll just make up
whatever
the
it is.
opposite.
Yeah, just
whatever it is.
just pretend like your opinion is the opposite.
And I rage quit.
Like, I'm out of here. Start ripping
only
off
if-
the microphone.
Only if like 2 seconds later it shows like joining video, and then he's back. He's like, "All right, guys, listen. I just
Yeah. Look, guys, I might have gotten a little out of control there.
I might have let things get my temper get the best of me, but
You know what? But fuck that guy. But you know what I'm saying?
I got our guest next week actually is a perfect person for him to spar off with. Honestly, you'll see.
Oh yeah.
We'll just interject some stuff, like whenever he says something, like, oh, our last guest, John, wouldn't agree with anything you said there.
How about like a sound bites, and you keep them
Right.
on a board, and you just like, well, this
No,
what John.
no.
No, fuck that guy. Fuck that guy.
Jonathan Chiotis wouldn't agree with that.
That's going to be our new tagline.
You know what is funny? Like we used to do all the things that them kids do on the YouTubes nowadays. Like we used to do with the recorders. That was like the cassette recorders. Remember we used to torture our friends with the cassette recorders.
Yeah.
Like I have recordings on cassettes of like us conversating or making up stories.
Yeah, guys, you have no idea how many slasher films I made before I was like 15 years old. We made so many on bootleg camcorders. Like I died probably in more than 100 different ways before I was like 15 years old.
Well, dude,
remember we made the one where like every time the guy drank, he ended up in Mexico. Like, but he would drink and then wake up in Mexico, and there'd be midgets, the Chinese midgets that were like throwing money at him.
So if you send me those tapes, John, I'll digitize them and put them somewhere on the internet, on the dark web.
Very nice. All right.
No problem. But I appreciate you coming on, man, and we'll stop the recording here. This is episode number 40. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And please, I'm going to have probably 1 million links now because we got Reese's. How do you say it? Reese's.
Golden Road is how you say it? How about that one? You got to drop another one.
We got Golden Road. We've got
Beats by Dre.
What is it? Not Yahoo. Yoo-hoo.
Yeah, Yoo-hoo.
Orangina, all these sorts of things. So click on them.
Now you gotta drop Yahoo too, man.
Yeah, and Yahoo.com. I don't know if we can get paid off Yahoo.com though.
Yeah, I don't think you. I think you can pay for like extra storage with them. So
screw that. No, just go to Google. All right. But click on the links. It helps support the show. Thank you, John. What's the name of the artist behind you again?
Rusi La.
All right. And you got anything you want to sell?
Alice Springs, Australia.
What are you selling?
I stopped selling myself a long time ago. You know?
All right, but St. Anthony's Fire, how about that? If anyone buys the book on Amazon, both myself and John are co-authors of that. So some prose, some poetry, and we get a little cut of that. So thank you all for listening. I can't believe we're on
hot off 40. The presses 15 years ago. Hot off the presses.
I think
let me say some words real fast so that my picture pops up and you can see what the book looks like.
So that picture, as a matter of fact, I think I actually took on like a Halloween. We were at a cornfield or something, and I ended up taking that
on a Halloween. Jesus, you sound like you're 100 years old.
So
back on a Halloween.
We went to Gettysburg, and I took my son for a haunted walk through the cornfields at like midnight in a full moon.
Oh, that's so cool.
The kid was like, I'm like, dude, you're not afraid? He's like, no, I'm with you, man. You're like the toughest guy I know. And it's like, oh, little do you know, my man, we're just going to run if we have to, okay?
So for those of you that don't know what St. Anthony's Fire is, Google it. Don't yahoo.com it because you'll get nothing. You'll get like sports scores or something weird.
Yeah, man, forget Bing. You better Google that.
And next week we've got a special guest coming up. So stay tuned for that. And John, been a pleasure, man. Hopefully I can see you in person again here soon, and COVID doesn't keep us apart too long. But
not too worried about that. You can come by.
I appreciate it. Tell Melissa I said hey, and the kids I said hey, and thank you, man.
All right, yo, Biz, nice to meet you, dude. Thanks for having me on.
You too. Thank you.
All right, you're in listening to Infiltrate Radio, episode number 40. Tune in next time, you bitches.
Infiltrate Radio.